So I've got, again, from your website, Australia Day policy. So I happen to personally support the idea of changing the date, but I personally would prefer to do so on the day that we split from the Crown. So this goes into two parts of your policy. It just seems to me to make the most sensible decision that prior to King Charles being coronated, that we would have a well prepared in advance transition plan for a republic. Yeah. And it's the day that we decide to pass. Sorry?
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, sorry, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, that's great. That's great.
So when Queen Elizabeth's reign ends, whether she passes or she denounces, that at that point we have a well executed plan and we push that in, and it's at that point Australia Day, much like the US has. So I know that after looking at your website that the New Liberals support a republic. So I wondered, would this be considered a reasonable approach for the date? And also, has the New Liberals thought deeply about the powers and authority of a would-be president? Because I know that this was a real sticking point when the Republic debate was publicly discussed around, what are the powers of the president? How are they going to be elected? These were the real sort of problems then, and I imagine they're not going to go away. So, yeah, it's a two-pronged question. One, could it be considered? And two, has the New Liberals thought much more about the Republic execution plan?
Yeah, I think your idea for the date is great, because there's a lot of debate about which date to choose, and it's really hard to know. There's pros and cons for all sorts of answers, and where do you put holidays, and where does it fit with school holidays? There's a million bits and pieces that get thrown up, but I think that would be a nice solution, a very comfortable solution. I'd certainly put that to the party, and I don't see why they wouldn't grab it, because we're looking for something that does have a comfortable solution. Most of the, you just don't want to get hung up on the date. We want to do it because it's an insult to First Nations people, but where it is now, but people go into great long debates about which date, and a simple date like that I think might solve it. So I think that's great. I'm pretty sure the party would jump at that. The second part was the nature of the republic. We haven't fixed on a firm policy within the party. I can tell you what my own view is, and I'm pretty confident this will be the policy, but I can't speak for the party because we do have a very democratic process. All these things, they get sent through all the members with an opportunity to comment. The person that has the carriage of the policy talks with the members, takes their feedback, does a second draft policy, etc., etc. We've got quite a, so I can't speak for the party till all that happens. But my own personal point of view, which I think is from having spoken to people, is that we wouldn't want to change the tripartite separation of powers that we now have, where we have an executive that's drawn from the parliament, we have the parliament, and we have the judiciary. If the executive becomes one person, as it is by election, as it is in places like America and France, you change the entire constitution of Australia and the way it works. And I, first of all, don't know that that's necessary. And secondly, I think it's dangerous, because with all due respect to our cousins in the United States, you can see how dangerous it gets when we get a bit of a rat bag elected to that spot. They get too, and somewhere like France actually has the French president post Charles de Gaulle's, when he brought in the Fifth Republic. I mean, they have enormous powers, really, really frightening powers. And you see Trump constantly threatening executive instruments. I don't know enough about American Constitution to know whether he's bluffing and he hasn't got the power with some of them, or he does have the power, but it's pretty frightening to think that you can have a legislature and, that's elected by the people, many hundreds of people who represent areas of the country and they pass a law and then bang, you know, some Trump-like character. Well, I mean, for a start, he has a veto. You know, they have a veto. Like one human being has a veto on the whole election process and the whole parliamentary process. I think it's an awful lot of power. So I guess I would see the change to republic as more of a symbolic thing, the break with the United Kingdom, the final piece in the puzzle of our unique freedom as a nation, where the head of state would be appointed as they're appointed now, but they would be not a representative of the Queen, but a representative of the Australian people. Now, I'm not saying that's perfect either, but that would be my strong personal preference.
Do you think, though, that there's potentially an opportunity with going to a republic where we don't need to copy anyone's? We can learn learn from the mistakes from others. We don't even need to have a president. We could choose a different title. But is there not potentially a missed opportunity for us? There are calls for certain constitutional reforms. So I'm not saying throw it away, but at that moment, have a really thorough, rigorous public discussion around, well, there is an opportunity for us to amend, to clean out and improve. Because at the moment, our constitution largely suggests that the Governor General has a hell of a lot more power than actually in practicality that they do. And so is it an opportunity for us to clean up the constitution? And also, and it's something I mentioned in a video just this week, I think it was, I was listening to Malcolm Turnbull's, I'm listening to his book through audio, and he recounts the travel schedule being PM, and it's absolutely insane. So between, you know, the 2 weeks around sitting time in Parliament, flying to various different heads of states meetings, you know, trying to get that bit of time as to meet with all the various different leaders of other countries, which obviously are very important when, especially, you know, we'd say with China or other sort of countries around us, when you have events that occur and you need to rely on those relationships, having that, but at the same time, we're losing our key decision maker every time. Is there a possibility to explore? And I guess it's not so much a question for the party, but it would be, I think there is an opportunity for us to explore, and it would be kind of refreshing, in my opinion, if parties or the New Libs or whomever might consider it, open that up as a discussion. Let's have it. We're keen to see if there's something that we can do better here. What I get disappointed by is uninspired. Like, let's not go to a republic uninspired. Let's have a really good plan that's going to really accelerate Australia. Is there ways to fix and improve the systems in this process? And let's be prepared for it. Let's not do Brexit and say, leave, yes, no, and bring it down to sachet and lose all the nuance and important conversations, which is exactly what they did. Let's not repeat that, which is because that's, I think, largely the Republic missed that opportunity then. But it would be refreshing for other parties to say, listen, let's submit your ideas and we're listening. If you have a plan, submit it to us because we're keen to listen. What's your gut instinct? I know I'm putting you under pressure.
Right. No, my gut instinct is that that's great. And I mean, I'm kind of half ashamed of myself that I've allowed my mind to go down that dichotomy between our system and the French-American system. Why, as you say, why does it have to be one or the other? We could have a president that didn't have the same sorts of power, but could still be elected. There's all sorts of possibilities. And as you were talking, I'm thinking, it would have to be bipartisan, because the complexities of it would be too easy to defeat in a referendum by plucking out, if people were against it, if parties were against it, too easy to pluck out this thing and that thing and say that they're not quite right, and then people get panicky and they vote no by default. If you, open it up to all the constitutional experts, the sociologists, the lawyers, all the people that would have an input, the First Nations representatives, and say, what do we want our executive to look like?
It'd be fascinating.
There's a million. When you start thinking about it, there's a million possibilities. I mean, Sparta had two kings. You know, we could have two presidents.
Yeah.
And we could insist that one was a man and one was a woman. I mean, we could do anything. Why not?
Well, that's it. I mean,
Yeah.
one of my thoughts was at a very least, it'd be nice. It's a nice idea, whether it's is practical, is for people that understand this more than me to debate, which is an important debate in my mind. But, imagine if all of the international head of state could be, that role could be taken off the shoulders of our PM. So the PM's able to focus more on running the country, but they would have to have a really close relationship.
And then you've got,
sort of to work and balance off each other, whether so if it's almost a chairperson and a CEO kind of relationship, I'm not sure, but it's an exciting idea to think, what, Australia doesn't have to just copy and paste all the time. We can invent our own, and we can innovate, and we can write our own futures. And that, to me, is a real republic. It's when we've made the decision and we've come up with the idea, and this is how we want to be governed.
And it's time we stood up and made our own decisions. I find one of the funniest things is I'll talk to people about some of our policies, and some of our policies, I guess, are quite original. I hope they are. And people say, well, where'd you get that from? Is that from America? Is that from Scandinavia? And you say, no, it's not. And then they get kind of worried, like as though almost like we don't have a right to invent the wheel. We have to use somebody else's wheel. And I think that's because we've been lived in the shadow of some sort of colonial power all our existence. So yeah, I mean, what a perfect time to start being a bit original than with your own republic. And there must be 1 million people out there who have great ideas. Imagine the fun of a constitutional convention that actually brought together thinking people from a range of disciplines with ideas like that, and have it out there in the public debate. Just be beautiful.
Wouldn't it? It really, that's the sort of stuff. So I'm thrilled that it's something that you would consider.
Oh, sounds great.